I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello everyone, welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth no lies told. Today I'm joined by Miss Dr. Kristen Williamson. She is a licensed professional counselor with a PhD in behavioral health management. And the ultimate cheerleader for late diagnosed neurodivergent adults. She was diagnosed with ADHD and autism just in time for her midlife crisis. However, Kristen turned her newfound self-awareness into a superpower, helping others navigate their own neurospecific journey. So I'm so happy to have you on. I told you beforehand, but say to my audience, I read her bio and was just so moved by it. It was something that it was so sweet how she wrote it out, and I just cannot wait for her story today and for you guys to hear it. So thank you so much for coming on. It's such an honor.
Thank you for having me and dealing with the chaos of my cat already joining in and deciding that he is the ringleader of this day.
So if you could, please introduce yourself and just share with my audience a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Oh my gosh. My name is Kristen. I did everything that you've already read. I've got my doctorate. I'm a professional counselor by trade. I work online because I learned apparently being neurospicy, which is my fun way of saying autistic because I fully think we have the spice of life. We have a hard time with eye contact. And so I'm like, I could work online. That way it looks like we're looking at one another in the eye, but really we're not. And it just makes it a little bit easier. Which has been really fun to kind of fall into this niche. I think 100% of my clients these days are on the autism spectrum or ADHD or some variation of neurodivergence, which is really cool. It just shows that everyone's brains are slightly off kilter, and that is completely okay.
Well, I can just see that as like a huge, as a huge inspiration because, I've not really seen a lot of people that get diagnosed with autism be at this stage in their life where they have a PhD and they work and have this career. So I see you as such a huge influence as a motivational person to be able to say, you know what, yes, what I do have is something that does affect a lot of people, but it's not something that will affect your life at
Right.
all. You have
It's
them
we're different, but we're not less.
right.
But for a long time, there was such a stigma of, oh, you're autistic. That means you're going to end up in a group home. That means you're going to be a stalker at a grocery store. And I mean, yeah, you could be. You may end up in a group home. It's a whole spectrum. But that also is the idea that you can go to school, you can have a family, you can have a job, you can do these things, you can have struggles, like struggles with eye contact, but it's you find ways to work around it and say that that's not going to define who I am so much as alter the way that we can go about interacting with the world.
So tell me a little bit more about growing up and when you first got diagnosed with autism. Was it something that you kind of were kind of aware of, or was it something that just was just kind of like
Not at
bam?
all. It was bam. When
Yeah.
I was growing up, I was um my dad was in the Air Force, so we moved every couple of years. And for military kids, they kind of fall off in if you've got autism, ADHD, you've got any kind of maybe a mental health diagnosis or a learning disorder, you don't get seen as easily because you change school districts every couple of years. You move maybe to a new state, to a different continent. And so we can wear the mask of, I am a good student. I can do the things. I'm only a little bit weird. And you can do that for so long. And when the cracks start slipping, they tend to move. And so I didn't get diagnosed until I was 39, already a therapist, already working with autistic people, with everybody. I have two kiddos. My oldest is almost 16. He got diagnosed with autism and ADHD at 8. And so I've already been on the side of at least parenting autism, what that looks like and how it's very different than a neurotypical brain. And it taught me how to advocate for my kids' needs in ways that I had never known to advocate. But I mean, parenting is also learning by doing and going and whole different sidetrack. I had a therapist friend about 6 years ago. We were talking. He said, "I'm pretty certain you're autistic." I was, no, 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 I'm not autistic. My kid's autistic. I don't act the way that he does. I don't respond or have the same kind of quirks as he does. And he had sent me a couple of YouTube videos on what autism looks like in females. And it just like blew open this whole pathway that I'd not really ever thought of. And, at that time, it's learning that the autism assessments were created for young white males of affluence. So people of color were missed, females were missed. Anyone who doesn't present with that traditional male autism type, they were missed. Same with ADHD, like the ADHDers who are more of the daydreamers than the bouncing off the walls. Like if you don't hit that criteria, you weren't seen, but that didn't mean that you weren't still struggling. And so I went on a multi-year learning process because with autism in America, it's expensive to get a diagnosis as an adult because there's not pills that really make it go away. And so from what I've learned, insurance companies, they're like, well, we don't want to pay for testing. It's not going to benefit you. And that's where I have learned the power of just advocating for self for people who it's okay, you don't need a full diagnosis, but you can learn about yourself. Like that power of the non-diagnosis is still saying, well, I might struggle with this, or here's where my brain is different. Here's where I could benefit from accommodations. And yeah, now I get to use my position and my voice to come out and tell the whole world that they can do this.
You actually had made an interesting point because I didn't know that there was kind of a difference in autism in males and females.
Yeah.
Can you, from your knowledge of what you've learned, what are some differences in autism for different genders?
Oh boy, howdy. I need to tell you this. This makes me, it's just, oh, I have actually a book coming out sometime next year that's all about how autism presents in females. And so I am like passionate about this. And I am going to be speaking more from the American culture, Western culture more than I can for females of different cultures. But for our culture, girls are almost taught to mask who they are from the time they're born. Uh, okay, well, don't be rough and tumble. Smile. Don't make a fuss. Don't do this. You need to be the one who helps clean the house, who gets things done. You're responsible. You can do this or this or this. And so we kind of push down those struggles where we might be that chatterbox in school. I still have report cards my parents kept that I was the chatterbox. I would talk to the wall if it let me. So I didn't struggle with talking with people with that
Yeah.
social connection. And a lot of females tend to make friends a little bit easier. Like we can have that social connection, but that doesn't mean that we really know what's going on, that we don't fully understand the depth of the socializing and the social norms. Like for me, I felt from a young age that I felt like an alien, just like wearing a human disguise and just, okay, well, I'm studying behaviors of these people around me. And oh, this person got a laugh. I'm going to like chalk that up into my memory and remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Or the TV show Friends was really big when I was growing up. And so paying attention to, oh, they got laughs, or look at this. This is how they walked. This is how their eyebrows raised at certain times. And so I just felt as though I was studying behavior all the time. And I didn't realize until later on that that wasn't necessarily a normal thing. Like at some point in time, middle school, elementary school kids, like we're all studying each other. But I've learned for autism, it's a more enhanced studying that we're doing.
You actually kind of had made a good point there about, when you're trying to study people's behavior stuff, and you made a good point there about, you made someone laugh and you kind of remember that. For someone that's real quiet, and this is for anyone, if they're noticed a quiet kid and people always oversee them and everything, if there's a moment where you do something and they laugh at you and it's the first time that you've actually made someone laugh, it does something to them. They'll remember that memory of the time I actually made everyone laugh. That'll
Especially when
be a
you make them
hardcore
laugh
memory.
versus them laughing at you.
100%.
Mhm.
That's going to be a core memory that child will have till the rest of their life. It'll be a staple in their brain, and that'll just be a good memory that they'll have forever. So I totally understand where you come from that, because that is technically true with anyone, that
Yeah.
if and that could be for anything. If you are known as the bad kid, and if you did something good for once in class, everyone's going to remember that core
Yep.
memory forever and ever, because it was something that was just kind of unexpected. So
I've learned with my ADHD brains, a lot of these kids were raised as the bad kids, the loud kids, the kids who are too much, or the lazy kids. Like they just had these labels thrown on them of, well, you did the homework, but you didn't turn it in. Or just, why can't you listen? Why can't you focus? What's wrong with you? And so as a kid, it's almost death by a thousand cuts. Your self-esteem is just taking these hits of, okay, there's something wrong with me. Clearly, I'm not smart enough to know how to study. I can't focus the way that other people do. I can't do this. I can't do this. And it's heartbreaking because just as a kid, like you don't realize that that's not a normal response. You just know that's your response. And I think it's getting a little bit better now as parents are learning about this, as teachers are learning, and they're saying that, okay, well, it's not that there's something wrong with you. There's not something wrong with your brain. It's you learn different. Does that make sense?
that makes total absolutely makes sense to me. Um, what are some common misconceptions about neurodivergence that you've seen and kind of have lived with since you've started this journey?
There is this idea And it came, I think, from the movie Rain Man that came out in the late 80s, that if you're autistic, you must be really smart at math. You must be a savant at something. And I could not pass math in school for the life of me. I can't count cards. I don't play instruments very well. I do have an obscene amount of knowledge about cats and it's the hyperfixations, but it's the big stigmas is that there's something wrong with our brain, that it might be broken or altered versus different, and that we're not able to go very far in life. I think it was even someone this year in politics who kind of put it up there like, well, autism is, you're never going to get to learn to play baseball. You're not going to get a job or have a family. And that's absolutely not true. I mean, for me, baseball, can't play baseball, but other things. And so it's
Yeah.
just that them thinking that we can't do things.
The social media and like common modern media like TV and movies, so they do a bad job portraying the truth about what autism gives us. Because what you said was a good point, that usually they are smart, they are
Mhm.
that. Does film and movies and TV shows and even social media portray false information about the
That's
true aspects of autism?
such a good question. Oh my gosh. And I think I can say in the past, they did not portray it as well. I can pull up, like, I'm thinking Big Bang Theory was really popular. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the characters on there, Sheldon Cooper, his one of his key phrases is, I'm not crazy, my mom had me tested. But he was never diagnosed as anything. He was just portrayed as a butthole and kind of
Yeah.
rude, but still had friends. I have other cat. um, and there's other TV shows from early to mid 2000s that had characters that had autistic tendencies and were kind of rude and were kind of jerks, but were never labeled as autistic. They were just really smart. And now I actually think shows are getting better.
Mm.
There's, I really like the TV show Love on the Spectrum because it
I've
just
heard of that show. Yeah.
it shows that everybody wants love. And it doesn't portray anyone as less, which is phenomenal. And it's social media. One thing I really liked about social media, and I know social media really has pros and cons, and so I'm only going to talk about the
Yeah.
positive things I've seen. When COVID had the world shut down, people went online. They went online to share their stories. And that is where a plethora of people were able to learn about themselves and find these communities that they hadn't known were there. I have some clients that came to me and they said, I found my autism community in Reddit or in Instagram or in TikTok. And it's just so cool. It's so cool that they were able to, before they were diagnosed with anything, they're like, wait a minute, I struggle with this, but I struggle with this. And oh, I can have earplugs when I go to concerts. I can wear sunglasses when I go into groups outside because it helps reduce the visual chaos. Like they didn't know they could do these things for themselves. And so that's where I think social media has been a huge bonus for those learning about themselves. There's also the flip side of that is you could get into some higher levels of misinformation.
Yeah.
And so it's take the information that you're learning, but then research it. Like look it up. Maybe don't take everything you're hearing as solid and true.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good thing because nowadays social media now has so much false information that spreads out and it's gotten to the point now where it's so hard to decipher what's real and what's fake.
Yeah.
And I really liked and appreciate that you brought up Love on the Spectrum because I think that for people that don't know, it's a show that's on Netflix. It's the whole cast of all the characters of the show are have some form of autism, and it's I've not seen the show, but I've seen and I've really heard about it, and I've heard such good things about it. It's a good show to that accurately depicts it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really it does normal stuff. I know there's one guy on there that was on Kelly Clarkson's talk
And
show,
there's Tanner.
and if
He
people
is
don't know,
just a light of happiness.
he is there was a clip of him that went viral on social media. I think I would say last year. He actually went and met Jack Black. He really liked Jack Black. He was a huge fan, and Jack had actually surprised him on Kelly's show, and that actually kind of really blew up. I think it even got news attention as
I
well.
think it did
So,
too. Even
so
Jack Black came on and talked afterwards. He said, I was not prepared for that amount of love I was going to get. And that's just, and with the show Love on the Spectrum, it does not always have people who are like autism has now it's got three different levels. You can be diagnosed autism level 1, level 2, level 3, and it is on your day-to-day support needs. Autism level 1 is what used to be seen as kind of Asperger's level
mm,
of okay, you've got some su support needs. They're not really big. You're kind of quirky. You you can mimic being human 95% of the time, but that 5%, it shows. And then level 2, they might need more help with getting dressed, with speech, with just different areas in day to day. And then level 3 is substantial need for day to day just assistance. And that's what I like about that show is it has people who are level 1, 2, 3. Like they're not saying autism is demeaning in any on any level in any facet and that people they still look for love no matter what.
yeah, it's a good show. It's a very good representation of it. It's not, disrespectful in any kind of way. It's taking a normal thing that normal people do and puts it into like a different side of it. I think it's a great show. I mean, it's won multiple Emmy awards for its show,
I didn't
and
know that.
so I saw that it won multiple primetime Emmy awards. So I
Oh
mean,
goodness.
it's such a great show, and yeah, I've everyone on there looks like they're the sweetest people you'll ever meet. It's like absolutely, you know, uh, p- people that never really have had autism or have a child that has autism. It's always when you have comedian. I've seen comedians do this as well, where it's people get real touchy about this topic and that um if they have a disability or they have autism that they kind of become the full front of jokes. And some people see it as, well, that's comedy. You're supposed to make fun of people, but some people get really offended. Is there a way that the public can have a better understanding that there is an appropriate way of like making it an issue? Because I feel like some people get scared to ask as well. They'll be like, so how far
Mhm.
on the spectrum are there? And they kind of
Yeah.
are very some people say it really
You
disrespectfully
know
and
what?
it's
That's a
not their
that's
intention.
good. Yeah. As far as people getting upset or butthurt with comedians, that's people are gonna get upset no matter what. You can be the prettiest apple, tastiest apple in the tree, and there's still gonna be someone that says I prefer oranges. And so, like, we're not going to please everybody. That's for darn sure. But with autism, I heard this put a couple weeks ago. They said, when you've met an autistic person, you've met one autistic person. They don't speak for everyone. That is one. And so it's getting to know people as they are. If they come out and say, hey, I'm on the spectrum, they say, oh, tell me about it. Or if you meet in like a parenting subreddit of special needs kids, tell me about your kid. And then it's you give the other person the chance to talk versus coming in with any preconceived notions, and also lean in with curiosity. That is one of the biggest things I can say, because people are interesting. Like, people of all kinds. They're so interesting and they have stories.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they may not be able to articulate their stories as well as other people can. I can't draw nearly as well as other people can, but we can still share who we are. And I love the phrase neurospicy. I have very quickly learned that not everybody likes the phrase neurospicy because it feels offensive to them. And that is for them to feel. For me, it feels empowering. And so I will continue saying it. And that is it just kind of the mark of people are going to be different. They're going to respond different. And I think if we come in respectfully, and then if they say, oh, I don't really enjoy that, we say, oh, thanks for letting me know, and move forward from there.
I think you put that very, very well. This generation just gets offended over everything, and and I'm part of that generation that's the problem. It's not people that are older than me kind of fall into that as well, but my generation really is just, it's so hard because they kind of put this all into, we're all in this one group where we kind of judge every little thing that we do, and you can't please anyone. I mean, that's just honestly, how life is. I mean, you can't make everyone like you. You can't make anything. And I've made this good
Can't.
analogy too. It's like, I gave the example is like, nowadays there could be like a table full of scissors that are multiple colors. It could be like red, orange, yellow, and whatever. I could go and pick up a pair of yellow scissors, and someone beside me could go, "Why didn't you pick up the orange one?" And it's like, why does it matter what pair of scissors I pick up?
Oh.
So it's like people
And
get
then you
offended.
come in saying, well, did I do something wrong? Are the yellow scissors not sharp? And then you just start questioning because someone else comes in. Yeah.
And so everyone gets offended over every little thing now. And so it's like, I want to say, and it's like, well, we become more accepting, and some aspects I see that as true, but other aspects I'm thinking I don't see any change in it because it's just such a thing. And with comedians too, if they went to that show, if a person that was autistic went to a show and they get made fun of and they're laughing, it always kind of kills me when the comedian has said they're laughing. They have to always point it out. That's like they're laughing about it. They're not offended by it, and it's always, and then it kind of makes the whole room lighten up like, oh, and then they'll start laughing.
I love that because, one, being picked on by a comedian, that's like, I'm part of the in group. Specifically, not getting picked on, it's like, wait a minute. What? And so I actually love it. There's a couple different comedians I've seen where they'll pick on everybody. And not
Oh,
saying
yeah.
it in a nefarious way, but I think that's a level of inclusivity that people with disabilities may not get in other places because people tiptoe around it. And it's like, no. And that's where I'll talk about being a parent of an autistic kid, and there are funny moments, there are hard moments, but I have that experience, so I get to come talk about it. I would say it might be harder if someone, not even a comedian, but like if someone's coming in and telling me how to parent who has not experienced parenting a special needs kid, then I might get a little ruffly with, but how
Yeah.
do you know?
Yeah. There's always a nicer approach to those kinds of questions and scenarios of, you know, well, is this how you parent? And then there's a nice way to go about it. You can't just walk up to someone and say, that's not how a child should act. That's not what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
And there's a way of saying, coming up to them and being like, hey, is this, but I don't mean to bother you, but I think your kid's being a little disruptive. And, it's like,
Right.
then they'll say, oh, he or she has autism. And then, like, oh, I'm so sorry. And there's a nicer way to approach stuff instead of just being very blunt. Now, being blunt kind of can be good in some ways, but in some scenarios, it's kind of weird. Well, it's kind of just, it's better just to approach nicely. You can still be blunt, but have a good positive attitude and not be really like aggressive with it.
And I will say another component is like as a parent, if someone's coming up, I don't want to just say, oh well, my kid's acting up, they're beating on other kids, well he's autistic, so that's okay. No, it's not. The action is still not okay. How we are working through it, or we might be working through it in a different way. It's the I'm going to give a little bit more grace for my kid having overstimulation. Like, oh my gosh, going into grocery stores when he was little, I had no idea he was overstimulated until I learned about this myself. And I'm
Mm.
thinking, a 2-year-old in this giant store with noise and everything to look at and a lot of people around, his poor system just got overwhelmed. And then there would be meltdowns, and people would be looking at me, and I'd feel like this horrible mom and just this shame of, I have no idea why my kid's melting down, but I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so as he got older, we would bring headphones in, and people would still give us looks, and I'd be like, he's on the spectrum or something. And like I gave that, but it wasn't, he was interfering with anybody else's life.
Yeah.
And so it's coming in with a little bit more compassion, but also not leaning into whatever label it is as an excuse for bad behavior. And I do think that's sometimes what we have fallen into with this.
Let me ask you this: is like as a parent that has a kid that's autistic, I've seen, and now I'm not going to shade anyone for this, but I have seen some parents that are not autistic as well give kids special treatments. Like I've seen kids out at like, this is especially with school. I've seen kids get special accommodations. They get really like aware of stuff, and I've seen. I know someone personally that I know has an autistic child that really does. I think does it a lot for attention, and
Ah,
it's she uses her as a way to get sympathy for some stuff. I don't know what, and it's this could be a controversial thing, but do you think some parents that have autistic kids go a little overboard and like, oh, my kid has autism, this and that, and they kind of use it for special things? What's your insight about parents that usually kind of use their kids for that kind of thing, or like they
absolutely.
kind of use it for like sympathy?
Yeah, it's not, I will say it's not the higher percentage of parents who have kids on the spectrum, but it is there. It is there. It's parents who are just parents who have kids who they will promote on social media. who will do things for just the clout. Like I saw parents of all kinds. But with
Mm,
the like, we need to get into this place. My kid's autistic. Like, we need to be first. We need to do this. We need to do this. No, you don't get to just push by because your kid's on the spectrum. Like, get there early. Make accommodations for doing these things. There are stores that have hours for people with sensory sensitivities, and I love that. It's the
mhm.
I get overwhelmed, I'm going to go shopping at these times. Movie theaters offer for times like this. So that way it's you're not coming in saying, I had even as an adult, I have this disability, you need to accommodate around me.
Right.
No, the world will not hold our hands.
Yeah.
But with the accommodations, I heard a TikTok video lady talk about this, and she was a teacher and it stuck in my brain. So he's like, okay, we've got two sixth graders. One of the sixth graders is 3 foot tall, the other one is 6 foot tall. She's like, okay, they walk up to the whiteboard and they're like, get this marker. And the marker was at the top. The 6 foot one could grab it real easily. The 3 foot one would, she gave him a chair, and that made it equal. That made it fair. And it just, people, sometimes we need these accommodations to be able to get something at the same height. But that doesn't mean that the 6 foot tall person is getting less. And so that's where coming in, like, that's just stuck in my brain. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes, it's not that they're getting less, it's that we are adding to the people that are not to the point where they can get to the top of the whiteboard.
It's like giving them a fair chance.
Yes.
Giving them a fair chance because, that could easily be such a huge disadvantage if someone was 6 foot tall and the board is like 6'1",
And
6'2",
they just like grab.
can barely lift her arm up and grab it, and then here's someone that's 3, 4 feet tall that can barely reach halfway up the board. That's such a disadvantage. It's like a huge thing of like, well, I can't even attempt this. Why'd you even bring me up here? Her having that chair, I think,
Yep.
is a good example of, yeah, just because I'm short doesn't mean I can still have a chance to get it. It was a
That,
fair race.
and so that's where I see with accommodations and parents who've who have kids who don't need the certain level of accommodations. I have heard them come in and have big feelings about it. And okay, you can have big feelings. But like kids who are dyslexic needing someone to read test questions for them versus them being forced to read, or like kids who need extra time on tests or have to be in a room with less people in it, that doesn't mean that they are getting favored treatment. It is that they are getting treatment that puts them on the same level with kids who can do it in the room, who don't struggle with reading, who don't have needs that, are infringing upon their learning.
I 100% agree with that. I think I don't know how it is now because we didn't really have a lot of autistic kids that were in my grade. We had, to my knowledge, two or three, and they were all just different. You kind
Mhm.
of could see just how different they were treated from like how parents parented them, how they were how they were treated at school versus how they acted. It was just you could see all different. So kind of going back what you said earlier, it's like you don't just meet one. There's
Yeah, when you meet one, you met
multiple.
one.
That's technically not true because it's like here's one that acts this way, but then here's one that acts another way. So it's like
Yeah,
they're all different. You don't just meet one person and that's how they all are. It's always
yeah.
they're all different. So I think it's more I guess accepted now than it was because I think it was times have changed, which again some says it hasn't. But it's always another thing that some of your questions here, and I appreciate this as like another angle, is if you're autistic, you can't get a job, and it's like you can't work. Um, From your experience, have you experienced any trouble which you as you had mentioned earlier didn't get diagnosed till later in life, so you had actually gone through school and everything, so you probably didn't have this problem, but um for have you seen a increase or like a difficulty in work environments about how they treat people that are neurodivergent or
Absolutely. Maybe not even ones who have a diagnosis or who have shared a diagnosis, but um, the neurodivergent population is a higher percentage of entrepreneurs because a lot of times they don't fit in well within the corporate world. It's there's a hierarchy scale that corporate world loves, and we're over here like everybody poops. Why can't I go talk to the CEO? And so it's just we don't
right.
always understand where that hierarchy is, or we'll come in and maybe have differences in our tone. And because a lot of people on the spectrum like struggle with the tone might be flat, or they're asking questions in a way that sounds really like they're interrogating when it's I'm not meaning to interrogate you. I'm trying to understand what's going on. But if we're not adding in the inflection in our voice, and other people are like, wow, they're really rude. They're such a jerk. They're such this or this. Um, and so the corporate world is really, really hard to work in. I've seen companies get so much better these days about understanding and just what inclusivity is in the you can have fidgets. You can sit in like if your desk works well over here, cool. If you work better working 11 to 7 versus 9 to 5, cool. You're getting the job done. And they're just finding ways that they can come in and work with their employees. But one thing I'm noticing, and this is not necessarily just people on the spectrum, this is kids graduating from college. This is the COVID era of kids where that socialization was kind of lost. And so learning that art of interviewing and talking and the pragmatic speech of hi, how are you? Just that back and forth.
Hmm.
It's the job interviewing is much harder these
Yeah.
days. And a lot of because I work with college age and up, a lot of my college age people are like, I don't do well making phone calls. I don't do this or this or this. And so that's a lot of what I do is we walk through and create scripts, which is almost my brain. The way I talk is almost exclusively in scripted conversations that I've already played out 47 times. And not only have I played them out, I've written them out in my brain and filed them away in a filing cabinet somewhere.
Hmm.
Organic conversation is hard for me because I don't always know what to say at the right time. I can do podcasts because I could talk pretty much about the same thing for any different time. But I'll teach my clients kind of scripts for making phone calls. We practice job interview questions, and just even getting to the point of getting a job is a little tough. But there's also you don't have to tell anybody you're autistic. You don't have to tell anybody you're ADHD. Like you don't have to go into these job interviews be like, "Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm autistic." No, that nobody has earned that right to know if you don't want to share it. You can come in and you can say, and talk about things like, I'm really good at writing. I'm not as good as making phone calls, but I can learn. And just say what you're maybe not the best at, but also following up with like, I can learn. Here are my strengths. I'm spectacular at organizing.
I'm as someone that deals with mental health disorders, I've kind of ran into this problem too. It's you don't want to go into a job interview saying that, "Hi, I'm Noah. I have depression anxiety." Because here's the thing with that regard. When I've have filled out multiple and multiple applications. Half of the applications I have filled out have mentioned this question of, have you or someone in your family suffered from any mental health illness? or have had some kind of mental health disorder diagnosed to
Yeah.
you. And some people are really truthful. I'm one of those people on resume. I hate lying and I hate
Yeah.
absolutely. So on some applications, I've put yes, and I would put depression and anxiety. And if there was something similar to that, I would put that down as well. What I've learned, and this has been from my mom's learning because she's obviously dealt with this longer than I have. She said what most jobs will do is they'll go through there, and the second they see someone that has a mental health disorder, they will toss that right out into the trash because they'll have that inclusion of, oh, well, they deal with this, and then they can't work into a
Yep.
high functioning thing. So I have actually lied on applications too. I've said no, I can't. So that's one thing that if you do suffer from mental health, and I'm pretty sure it's the same thing with autism, or if you have something that's on the similar spectrum, it's a thing where if you put that on a resume, chances are they'll look at that and think that you're not going to be a good fit for it because of just the general consensus of how some people perceive us as.
Well, it's going
And
in with the idea that we don't know who's going to read that resume. We don't know how they perceive depression or anxiety or autism. It
mm,
might be someone who's, yeah, I totally understand this, you know, anxiety means that you're going to probably be in every meeting on time because you're going to be so anxious that you're going to get there ahead of time. Or
mhm,
autism that you're this or this. And then there's going to be those people who don't understand. And they're going to say, nope.
right. And it's a hard no. I mean, they won't hear any explanations. They won't give you any leeway. It'll just be a no.
Yep.
And what I see in it is you don't know until you give them a chance. Because even if someone deals with, say, if you have like someone that was in the military and they deal with PTSD, or they've dealt with trauma, they've dealt with anxiety, depression, and they go into a thing where they may be working at a police station,
Yeah.
you never know if this will truly affect them until you give them a chance. If you give them a chance and they go in there and they see that they can't do the job, then that's where you say, I just don't think that you're able to fulfill this job. And, but you gave them the chance and you gave them an opportunity. I think more jobs need to do that because even though that if you do suffer from mental health, not everyone that has it is going to fall into this category of, well, I
Yep.
have depression or anxiety, I can't do this, or I have this form of autism, I can't
Yeah.
do it because
You're absolutely correct.
you might be shocked that some of the people that you might have had 80 people that work for your company that are totally normal, they don't have any mental health disorder, they don't deal with autism or any kind of um disorder related to that or similar, and they do a better job than all 80 of those employees combined. They do the best job, but you
But
won't know that.
and thankfully, legally, they are not allowed to ask if you suffer from a disability. Like now they've moved it into it's an optional question. Do you have a disability on this list? And people can check yes, people can check no, or the I don't wish to answer. But I am right there with you. You don't need to give that information out ahead of time. You don't you don't have to give that information out when you get hired. You can go
Right.
in and talk to HR and say, can I have an accommodation paperwork? You don't even have to say why. You just get that paperwork and can put in accommodations. And then that's for them to know. Your manager doesn't know, like none of these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's not staple to go into these interviews and going into these jobs and anywhere really. You don't have to go anywhere because it's really no one's
It's
business. I mean,
no one's business.
it's not like you're going in there and they say, yes, I have a fancy car. I have a lot of money. It's really
No.
none of our business, and we don't go asking those kind of questions. So I mean, you don't have to, and I don't want people to think that you have to mention this. It's really none of their business, and I mean, some chances are they won't ask, and if they don't ask, just pretend that even though you deal with it, just don't say anything about it. Just you know,
Well, and you can
unless
also
they say
put it out there.
something
You
that
can
you
put
could
out there
probably
you're
say
trying.
something.
Oh, my apologies. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, if someone actually like mentions it or says something, then yeah, you can choose to answer. And even if they even ask, you still have that right to say, I don't feel comfortable sharing that with you, or
Mm-hmm.
and there's a nice way to turn it down. So it's really personal preference. I mean, if you feel comfortable and you want to share that, I mean, have
Right.
at it. Um, that's your call if you want to do that, but I don't see any point in mentioning it if it's not brought up or anyone asks.
It's the same thing with women being pregnant. They're not allowed to ask because it adds that preconceived notion of, oh, okay, well, they're not going to be here in a couple months. They're going to go on maternity leave. Why do we hire them? So they cannot, the Americans with Disabilities Act makes it to where they cannot ask these questions. If a job is asking you these questions, that is not a job you want to work at. That is if they are already skirting by things that they are not supposed to be doing before you even get hired on,
Hmm.
what are they going to do when you're working there?
Exactly. Um, so how can workplaces create truly inclusive environments for neurodivergent employees?
I think coming in with different things for different people, and it's some people do good working from home remotely. Not every job you can work remote, but if there are things you can do, great. If it's you're allowed to be off camera for meetings, okay. Or we get transcripts of the meetings. Sometimes we need those closed captions, or we need the subtitles.
Mhm.
Um, and that we can wear headphones because we might get distracted if we are in an office where a lot of people are chattering. Or it's, hey, this company, we have a meeting. Here's the agenda. I'm going to email it to everybody ahead of time so you know what we're talking about how long it's going to run. And it just kind of, it's overly communicative and just giving more information than maybe you thought you needed to give, wanted to give, but also offering that in multiple forms. Like if people do better with written, have it written. If people do better, there's I have so many people that love going into the office because they get to have that social interaction that they wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. And also the forced fun, like don't make that mandatory. I'm like, let's go to the bar for happy hour afterwards. Not everybody drinks.
Right.
Not everybody can do these things. Like we don't need to have that mandatory fun as inclusivity and togetherness. It's that people can go, but they can also not.
Absolutely. It's I think you've made a lot of good points. Um, you might have already answered this, but what's been kind of the funniest or most surprising thing you've learned about yourself through your own neurodivergent journey?
That I'm pretty weird and I love it. I got to change that. I got to change how weird was described in my brain. Weird used to be something that was awful. Oh, she's the weird one. Now she's kind of weird. And yeah, isn't that awesome? And as I got to take ownership.
You know, we're all weird in a way, and I mean that's what makes us unique.
Yes.
That's
If
what
we
makes
were
everyone
the same,
unique. If everyone was the same, life would
it'd
be
be
so
so boring.
boring. Yeah, it's so boring. So I like people that are unique and weird, and
Yeah.
because it makes us like I don't know. It's just fun to learn that kind of person.
Oh my gosh. Everybody's so interesting.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people that are weird sometimes can take it a little far, and you're like, oh. Hello?
And that's your weird might not match my weird, but you are good to go. I will support you with it.
It's always like, how you doing? Like, it's like you just want to do like kind of a weird thing. It's always so funny.
Uh-huh.
Um, what's something that you want for your son and for your that's also autistic? You, what's what life lessons would you like for him to know about? Because I'm pretty sure you said he was 16.
Yeah. Um, I have a 16-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl who's ADHD. I want to say she's on the spectrum, but there's not assessments for girls, so of course it's missed. But anyway, it's the idea that just because your brain works different doesn't mean you can't thrive. Doesn't mean you can't make friends. Doesn't mean that you won't find your people. Sometimes it might take a little bit longer or take some searching, but that doesn't mean that they're not there.
I think in this situation, it also helps that you've experienced it, and it's a
Mm,
good way for them to be able to come talk to you and be able to be like, "I'm dealing with this," and then you could actually give them helpful advice. So I think even for people that don't have that they're if they're a parent they don't have autism or and then they have the what advice do you have for a parent that maybe has just recently had their child diagnosed with either autism or ADHD, what
mm,
advice do you have for them of how they can really appropriately parent them, but and make them feel like what they have is not odd to everyone else, that they're
yeah.
still it makes them feel included.
I would say first and foremost, breathe because getting that diagnosis, even as a therapist, it's life changing, but it doesn't mean that it's a death sentence. And so it's be open, be curious, learn about it. And where everybody is different, there are a lot of similarities. And so learn about it and come in with curiosity. One thing that, so my kid, it was a couple of years ago. He's in middle school, and I could not get him to wash the top of his head for the life of me. I'm like, did I teach you to shower wrong? Do I need to have you shower in swim shorts so I can watch what you're doing? Like, I couldn't figure it out. And I was going in with just more judgment than anything else. And so finally I got curious. I'm like, what's going on? And he ended up telling me because he didn't have the words until I asked that direct question. Sensory issues. He didn't like water hitting the top of his head. And so he would avoid it. And I was just assuming my kid is lazy, that he was doing. I'm like, you're just being combative. And so when I leaned in with curiosity, I learned it's actually something he was struggling with, and we were able to come in and fix it. And so for parents who are learning the kids are on the spectrum, please know that even as people who are considered specialists, we don't know everything. We still make mistakes and we learn.
Yeah.
And as long as you come in and learn from that and know that mistakes are going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, it's a learning process. It's a trial and error type situation. It's something that you may not have knowledge about, but doesn't mean that you can't learn about it. It's
Mm-hmm.
still, and even parents that have normal children, it's always continuously a trial and error thing. Like there could be something that happens to them later in life that didn't happen to them when they were younger, and you're trying to learn like, well, where did this come from? So I 100% agree with that. It's always a trial and error, and just don't give up on them. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be patient too. And patience, I
Oh,
think, is a
being
really
patient.
huge key, especially with kids. It's always you
Kids
have to
in
be,
general, patience.
yeah, yeah. Kids in general. Um, if someone on my show is listening that has recently got diagnosed with autism or ADHD or has had this diagnosis for a long time, what advice do you have for them who are struggling to really kind of cope with it or just need some guidance?
I would say the best thing you can do is For me, I liked getting online. I liked watching different videos, different parenting videos, different videos of other people, reading different books, just learning all you can to help break that stigma of there's something wrong. I've got 8 or 9 books out on Amazon now that are workbooks or coloring books and everything very much neurodivergent focused. And so there's all kinds of different things out there and that can help you learn about your awesome self.
Well, everything that you've done, I mean, you've had some really huge accomplishments. Is there anything else on your bucket list that you would like to maybe achieve someday, whether it's um maybe become a international speaker and be able to speak at conferences about this issue, or if there's like a particular job field that you would like to go into? Do you have any kind of big dream
Oh
bucket
my gosh, I
listies?
love that. I would love to be an international speaker. That would be so cool. Getting paid to fly around the world. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Um, we're working up to that. But just always wanting to do more. I don't ever want to stop. I want to be the best voice and advocate for those who don't have as loud a voice. And so I just always want to keep going up just to let everybody know that they're okay just as they are.
Well, I think even being on this platform is a way for me to for this message to get out there, because it's really really impactful, and I think it's really important for this kind of thing to be shared. This is something that is so hard to talk about because it's such a touchy subject.
It
Because
is.
people can get really, really offensive, or they feel real offended real quick. And it could just be normal people that don't have autism, they don't have know anyone that deals with it. They just get real offended. So I do appreciate your motivation and your awareness of being able to come on these different podcasts and on platforms on social media and be open about it and share it with it, that said, hey, there is an appropriate way to discuss this. This is how you approach it, and this is how you talk about it. I think that this is such a great message for people to know about. And I think you gave a lot of good information and good insights today. So I appreciate you so, so much for coming on and sharing this with my listeners and sharing some stuff with me. And I just know that a lot of people out there that listen to this are going to feel very, very grateful that they have this kind of episode to look back on, and that you have multiple things out there, especially what you said, workbooks and coloring books. That's something that would help a lot of students and help a lot of adults too. Um, if someone that's listening to my show has questions, I'm not a professional at this, so I'm not the best. If people would like to reach out to you, and if they have questions um about autism, if there's a parent out there that's listening that has just additional questions, where's the best place that they can find you? And feel free to also promote website and your social media accounts, so people where people can find you at.
I am on a variety of different social medias. I'm on TikTok as I think it's Dr. Kristen. I'm on YouTube, Dr. Kristen Williamson. Instagram, I believe, is the same. If you see a blonde-haired lady with multicolored dyes in it, it's me. And I'll talk about autism. It's one of my hyperfixations in life, and I want to normalize it. I want to let everybody know that you can be uncomfortable in your skin, but you still get things done. And that's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable.
Well, it's such a really deep subject, and for you to be able to be openly talking about it, it I know a lot of people are going to feel really empowered for it. Um, to my listeners, what I'll put all of her links in the description below. I'll put her website and social media platforms down there, so it's an easy access for you to find. I will put all those links down there. You can also follow me on social media as well. Instagram, TikTok, it's Lethal Venom Podcast. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, it's Noah's Podcast. You're more than welcome to follow any of those platforms to keep updates of the podcast on social media wise. And also you are more than welcome to listen to Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcasts from. It's on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. It's on all the major platforms, so feel free to subscribe to those and so you'll be notified when new episodes come out. Again, thank you to Kristen for coming on and sharing your story with me. To my listeners, thank you all for listening. Y'all, y'all have a great rest of your day and week, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Lethal Venom.